24th, 2021. Welcome back, everyone. I have my co-hosts, I was going to say Kim
Kim
Ponce,
Carlos?
Kim Lantis from Hermosillo, Mexico, and Carlos Ponce from Cuernavaca, Mexico. Hi, guys. Welcome back.
Pleasure to be here as ever, Tulio.
All right, guys. So we have an awesome topic today, which I'm sure is of interest to a lot of people. We're going to be talking about sleep, the lack thereof, how to improve it, how the impact it has on our lives, and we're going to do that with our guest Tara Youngblood, who is the CEO and co-founder of Kryo Inc., which is known for their product ChiliSleep. Hi, Tara. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So before we go into the topic of conversation today, let's get to know you a little bit. Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself? Introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, so I started my adventure with being a physicist. I was going to change the way the world does energy and do fusion energy. And at that point, when I graduated in the US, they'd kind of given up on fusion, although fusion hybrid reactors are coming back. So I'm optimistic, but I've kind of changed careers, so I don't know if I'll ever get back there. How I found sleep, my husband's uncle invented the waterbed, and after school, we went and worked for him for a bit and kind of caught the product development bug. And our product kind of came around thinking about the two of us sleeping at different temperatures. And so this is one of 100 different products we've brought to market over the years, but it's definitely our latest and greatest.
Interesting. So solving a personal problem led to the creation of a company. That's the genesis of ChiliSleep. Tell us a bit about the company, what you guys are doing right now.
Yeah, so ChiliSleep is, patented temperature regulation for your bed. So basically, the ChiliSleep pad is like a mattress pad, and it goes on your bed, and then we have a controller, and that adjusts your temperature anywhere between 55 and 110 degrees. We just recently took on an investment round with KKR, but prior to that, we had a seed round, so we're in Series A, just as far as company-wise, but we're located in Mooresville, North Carolina, which, if you haven't heard of Mooresville, is the home of NASCAR, but it's also just north of Charlotte, North Carolina. And hopefully someday we'll be known for having ChiliSleep too.
All right. Well, we look forward to that. So there's obviously a lot more than just, controlling temperature to improve your sleep. There's a whole technology and science behind it. Let's learn it. Let's see what we can learn today. Who's introducing the topic? Kim, are you introducing the topic today?
Sure, if you can hear me. Or go ahead, Carlos.
I'm going to go ahead just in case.
Go for it.
Yeah. All right, guys. So today we're going to be speaking about the topic that our guest chose was improving work life through sleep tech. In other words, we're going to be answering the question on how to improve the health and productivity of millions of lives. So I really look forward to this one. But before we go there, tell us, Tara, why did you choose this particular topic for today's conversation? Why did you feel it was relevant for today's day and age?
Yeah, so multiple things beyond sort of the pandemic. A lot of us are working from home and our schedules have gotten all dysfunctional. And so sleep is one of those things between stress and anxiety and schedule changes. I have 4 boys that I'm homeschooling in addition to working. All of us are juggling more than we even did a few years ago. And so I feel like, how do we find that balance? How do we find time to do sleep well and to do sleep well enough to stay healthy and really focus on our productivity? So when we're working, we're working and we're highly functional because we've slept well.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, okay, guys, we're going to start with, of course, the topic itself. It's very fertile for a lot of questions. So, but Tulio and Kim, do you want to go ahead and start?
I do. I have to say,
Kim,
Tara, you scared me when you said 55 degrees.
It's funny. I got nervous at 110. I'm like,
I got nervous there too.
Flying.
And I'm thinking to myself, when are either of these extremes applicable? Because I hear in Mexico, we speak Spanish, of course, and Mexicans are great for descriptors of people. And I'm what I call myself muy friolenta. And there's no great English translation for this. I wish there was, but I get cold very easily. I hate being cold. And I know a lot of people hate being hot. For me, it's cold. I'd rather be sweating than shaking. But my question is, how is body temperature or ambience temperature directly related to sleep quality?
Yeah, so your body is 98 degrees Fahrenheit or 37 degrees Celsius. And so, you're actually a pretty warm engine all by yourself. But that engine actually follows an interesting pattern of temperature throughout the day, and it's called your circadian rhythm. And you can sort of determine how that block works. It's driven by your chronotype, which is a clock. You have a body clock. It tells your body like when to focus on immune system, when to digest, when to have the highest blood pressure, when to work out, all those kind of things. But it also helps manage your temperature and your thermostat. And as you know, because you run cold, if you get sick or anything, our thermostat can get really funky. So lots of conditions make that thermostat not work right or be a little bit off. But your body wants to mimic the temperature outside. We had slept outside as humans for most of existence. And that temperature, as you know, is not consistent. It's not like our homes today that are one temperature. And so at night, even when we think of it getting cooler, for some people that is really cold. Their bodies are looking for that 55. But some other people are looking for just less than like their core body temperature. So anything less than that 37 actually is cool as far as your body's concerned. So it is a little different scale than we put on that ambient temperature. But your core body temperature, your heart and lungs want to drop 2 degrees Celsius in the middle of the night. And so that's a lot for your core body to do. And so it does want to be cooler than that room temperature possibly, and definitely cooler than your bed is.
Interesting. I've sometimes in the middle of the night when I wake up and I can't go back to sleep, I take a baby aspirin and that puts me right back to sleep because it cools down the body temperature. There you go. I just learned something. All right. So there's a lot of study that have gone behind figuring out what is the right mix of temperature, ambience, etc. How did you figure this out? How did you come up with this product based on the science? Did you do some research? Did you borrow from some research? I mean, clearly you've got the scientific background. How did this come about?
Yeah, so we actually, Todd and I, as product developers, we just came up with it based on solving a problem that we had where Todd would sleep on that block of ice. He would love to be cold all the time. And at that time, I was really very similar to you, except for, being pregnant other times. I want to warm up to fall asleep. And I was doing it wrong, actually, of like I'd warm up to fall asleep and then stay too hot and then not stay asleep. So honestly, the science came after of like, okay, we invented this. How does this really work? And Clifford Sapir out of Harvard gets credit in my mind for sort of being the first one to call a sleep switch. And that sleep switch is triggered by temperature and that temperature change that I talked about because of being outside.
Interesting.
Okay. So what ChiliSleep does is this, okay, what I'm understanding, is this based on a person's preference or a person's needs?
No, it's a little bit of both. That's why you have to kind of think past it, because when you think of going to bed, a lot of it draws back to childhood and what's snuggly and what feels good. And so for a lot of people, it is getting warm or cuddling into bed. But then once you fall asleep, again, your core body temperature is trying to drop. So that's really where it becomes a need to get colder. And it has less to do with your preference because you're asleep and your prefrontal cortex that makes decisions is no longer really functioning. But that temperature talks to your hypothalamus, which is that unconscious part that manages your heart rate and your breathing and things like that. So it's kind of like an unknown language that temperature talks to your body and says, please get more sleep when you're asleep.
So is this something where it's like I get to get comfortable and fall asleep, but then once I'm asleep, ChiliSleep sort of steps in and are there like sensors that says, oh, I need to get her body temperature up, I need to get her body temperature down? How does that work?
No, so it really works much like a programmable thermostat in your house where you have preferences because we've got 2 different temperatures in the bed for 2 different people. So not making it weird, but if Kim and Carlos were in the same bed, they would probably want different temperatures. And so they could choose different things and have a different program working for them. You may decide to stay warmer throughout the night, just dip a little bit. And Carlos may decide to be freezing cold the whole time or anywhere in between. And you guys could each do that. Sorry if that made it weird.
You both have a lot of explaining to do.
Yes, I guess so.
Go ahead, Carlos. I think you have a question. You're on mute.
I think we need to take a tally of how many times
so
Chili has had to
predictable.
say
So
that.
I was not on mute.
I was buying him
I
some
was-
time by throwing in a joke.
I
but
was
it
not on
didn't-
mute, guys. I interrupted myself before you did. So I'm good. I'm good.
Maybe you just
Tara,
need
I got a quick
you know,
question
better
here.
sleep.
Yeah.
Probably, yes. The thing is, I'm known for the I'm on mute guy here because I'm always put myself on mute because I don't want to make any weird noises. So I forget. I forget.
Our viewers
Okay.
probably think it's intentional, but I don't think it is.
Yeah.
It's
Tara,
become
I got a
shtick
quick question
now.
for you. And okay, about ChiliSleep and the Chili Pad. What I'm curious about, and this is because we're talking about sleep cycles, and there's some physiology in there. So what I'm curious is, how do you? Is there? This is just a big if. I'm wondering if you can get some kind of data or feedback the way that, for example, wearables do. That you interact with apps or you get information that's good you can use at a later time in order to improve your own cycles, whatever. So I'm curious about how does it work, or if there's such a thing in place right now with ChiliSleep and ChiliPad.
There isn't, and I will tell you, wearables are a mixed bag, like any kind of data. So if you're going to use your data and you're going to work on back and forth feedback and closing that feedback loop, but a lot of people will wear a wearable and not be looking to change. It's kind of like diet. It's not always helpful to weigh yourself every day. If you're really highly connected, you're doing a keto diet, then you do that every day and you're very methodical about it. But for the rest of us, if you're not in the middle of that, weighing yourself every day can be very detrimental because it goes up and down. And sleep is an interesting thing. It's actually there's a bunch of studies with Oura Ring, which is a sleep tracker. They were able to predict COVID based on seeing it in your sleep first. If you're starting to get sick, you can see it in your sleep before you actually get sick. And so similar to diet, you may fast for a whole day and not see that effort for 3 days. There's kind of a window of opportunity with sleep. And so you have to kind of be knee deep in it. And so they're finding with some studies that people just wearing a tracker just for the data sometimes actually sleep worse because they start looking at the sleep data as an indicator of whether or not they need to change their habits or do things. You have to kind of make sure that loop is pretty closely tight to what you're doing or not doing, because otherwise you wake up, look at the tracker and say, did I sleep well? And actually you would be more accurate if you just woke up and said, did I sleep well? And you will actually generally know whether you slept well or not. Feel rested. And that answer will most likely drive better outcomes than a sleep tracker. But there is a role for sleep tracking in sort of figuring those things out and when you're getting deep sleep or not and what kinds of sleep. But again, I more recommend that if you're really looking at tracking. So when we use it with our professional athletes, when we use it with the military, we're definitely doing it with tracking. But for the average user, you just need to set it. This is an easy button kind of thing, like the Staples easy button. This is just set it and forget it, like your house temperature. You don't think about what temperature you're adjusting your house temperature once you generally have a program for it.
I see. Thank you, Sarah.
So you just mentioned working with professional athletes, with the military, and going back to I think the foundation of today's talk. Why does sleep matter? Not just how, temperature correlates to good sleep. But why? Why should we care about getting a good night's sleep in the first place?
Yeah, so I love that question because I feel like sleep really should be more of an investment push than it is to do a savings account or even a retirement plan. Because when you think about retirement, if you don't have your cognitive self and you're going to sit in a nursing home, that's not retirement, right? We all want to be healthy and happy and play with grandkids and have good health outcomes. And unfortunately, lack of sleep is tied to all of those diseases of the elderly, from Alzheimer's and cognitive loss, memory loss, all the autoimmune diseases, all are, tied to that lack of sleep. So sleep is one of those things that we do take for granted, but we go through our lives and during the day, you don't heal. You generally don't file any memories. All of that is saved for nighttime. And a lot of it's for deep sleep, some of it in REM sleep where you're sort of filing and working through emotions. But sleep is that place where we clean up. And so if you can imagine your house, just like your memories and all the stuff that builds up during the day, if you never cleaned and you just kind of let it go, very soon it gets really cluttered and it starts to break down and it doesn't function as a house should anymore. Your body's really the same way. And so unless we take the time to clean it and heal it and file things, it becomes a disaster. And that's what our lives look like with no sleep as we age.
All right. So what I'm hearing is all those people that pride themselves about waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning and sleeping only 4 hours, being uber productive, check in with me when you're 70 or 80 years old. Let's see how you're doing then. Okay,
Yeah.
you got to get your sleep, people, right? That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and the immediate results aren't much better. So if you're pulling the all-nighter for testing like we all did in college, your results will be 15 to 20% less. You'll retain less if you don't actually sleep between when you study. They've done studies on finance traders, stock traders. Their decision making is very poor. The CDC has found that if you're really sleep deprived, you're actually going to act similar to being drunk. In fact, blood alcohol level kind of drunk, not like just a little bit, but you're going to make the same kind of decisions. You're going to have the same kind of reflexes, the same kind of performance. And if you can imagine productivity when drunk, not so good.
There's actually a Netflix TV show or something. I think I saw like an episode or two. And now I remember they literally deprive people of sleep for like 24 hours. And then they have to do like cognitive challenges, like catching things, and it's competition. Like they literally exist.
That could be really entertaining to watch.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's really terrible.
All right,
I don't know if
Carlos,
it's
I think you have a
Netflix.
question. I got one right after.
Show, but it's an interesting TV show anyway.
Carlos, go ahead. I think you have another one. I got one after you, which was a topic. Go ahead, Carlos. I lost my words. See what happens when you don't get enough sleep?
Oh no!
Yeah, we know you're not on mute.
I'm not on mute. I was just teasing you guys.
All right,
Tara. Here's another thing, and this is kind of ties into something that Tulio mentioned a few minutes ago. And I know, well, based on the conversations that we had off the air, I know you've been in a lot of podcasts and interviews and shows. So I'm curious about something in particular. Tulio, a few minutes ago, mentioned the how can I say this? The all this racket that's out there, and especially in the tech world and startup world, about people working 20 hours a day and sleeping 2, and taking pride in that. And so I'm wondering, I wonder if you, during these shows that you've done, podcasts, or some other place, have you encountered some naysayers about the quality of sleep and why it's so necessary? Is people who say, nah, you don't need to sleep. We're biased. We're programmed by the powers that be to sleep 8 hours, and that's not true. What would you say to these people? Because we're talking about, we need to remember, we're talking about improving work life, okay, through sleep tech. And a lot of these tech giants and startuppers in the world are going like, no, we don't need to sleep more than 2 hours a day.
I'll sleep when I die. Some people
sleep when I die, and that kind of thing. They even take pride in this. They wear T-shirts saying that, I'm a gamer, I don't sleep, that kind of thing. What would you say to them?
Yeah, so actually I'm a fun hybrid because 8 hours is absolutely a myth. The 8 hours came about at the start of the industrial age where factory workers had to they petitioned and sort of fought to get 8 hours off. And so 8 hours is this interesting metric, and there's billions of us. So 8 hours is like one number for all of us, seems like a crazy thing to me too. So I absolutely feel like we need to look at ourselves as n equals 1. We're all individuals, and how we approach it is going to be different. But there's a balance between no sleep and great sleep and making it work around your work life and however that is. So there's things like polyphasic sleep where you can break up how you sleep. In fact, prior to that industrial revolution, we would actually sleep first sleep and second sleep. Mexico, as you know, siestas are famous for a reason. Your core body temperature actually does a dip right after lunch in prep for that siesta. So siestas are like, they should be there. Different genetic groups are going to do it slightly different. In Spain, they have a later dinner, and they're programmed to have it sort of the equivalent of after work, after school nap, and then eat a later dinner. That was pretty common in lots of different cultures. And so I think we need to understand first that it doesn't have to be 8, and it can be broken up. But we do want to talk about quality. We want to talk about getting 2 hours of deep sleep, and we want to talk about getting 2 hours of REM sleep. And again, you sort of talked about the sleep stages. There's deep sleep, which is non-REM, and light sleep, and then REM sleep. And we go through all of those. What the number of hours we spend in each state overall for the course of a 24-hour period is really important. And one of the reasons I love our product is because it's a hack. If you can adjust the temperature, you can trigger your brain to say it's time to go to sleep. So for our shift workers and military guys, that's really one of the reasons they love it. We work with baseball teams. Some of their schedules are terrible on their sleep. Sometimes they can sleep 4 hours. Sometimes they can sleep 8. And they have jet lag and all those other things. Temperature, again, we're focused on talking to your brain that's unconscious. I don't care what you think. I care how you sleep. And we're going to talk to the part of the brain that's focused on making that happen. So when temperature talks to your brain, it releases melatonin and says it's time to go to sleep.
It's interesting,
Right.
Tara. Interesting what you're bringing up. I wonder how many people actually know what the minimum number of hours of sleep that they personally need, and quality sleep, right? I might think, well, I need a minimum of 6 hours, but realistically, if I got 4 hours of really good quality sleep, that might be all that I need. I know personally, if I get less than 5, I start to get a little foggy. So we all have our number, right? But one thing, I want to go back to something you said earlier, which I'm sure other people are still thinking about, specifically around COVID. And you said something about how you can predict the possibility of either getting it or having it based on sleep patterns or based on the effects it has on your sleep. Can you share a little bit more about that? Because I'm sure there's some people like wondering, wait, do I have COVID because I'm not sleeping well? Or can you enlighten us a little bit on that? I'm curious to hear about that.
Yeah. So really it's about checking those metrics that we don't have immediate access to in our conscious mind. So that core body temperature, or your body temperature, will actually be slightly raised as you're about to get sick, and it's in an insignificant amount. So the fever that we will measure will probably come later, but a lot of those sleep trackers are going to be able to pick up if there's a slight temperature increase, and we're talking like 0.6 degrees Fahrenheit, not a lot, like not significant where it's going to stand out. But when you're sleeping, if it's elevated, it's basically your body's immune system is ramped up. You'll also see it in something called HRV, which is your heart rate variability. The heart rate that you have, we think about our beats of like being so consistent, and you think of pulse of how many beats per minute, but the spacing between those beats is variable. And the more variable it is, really the more relaxed you are, if that makes sense. So if your heart isn't like that consistent, and it's this distance one time and this distance the next time, and it's really relaxed, that's what happens. And if you're super stressed, as you can imagine, we're going to be very controlling. That unconscious mind is going to control that heartbeat very specifically. And so as there's more stress in the body, those numbers for HRV drop.
Interesting. So I know you have another follow-up, Kim. So for example, if your normal temperature is 97.1, right? Some people run a little lower. You actually, having a 98.4 could be an indication that your immune system's triggering up and you're about to either fight that off or it's going to get worse, right? So maybe a good sign is say, take up some additional vitamin C. Even though you don't have a fever, technically, your temperature just went up. Okay, interesting. So much to learn. Go ahead, Kim.
Yeah. So, Tara, I'm interested to learn. So we've established why sleep's important. We established temperature's role in that. But my question for you is, what are these indicators that we can pay attention to that are telling us something's not quite right here? Like maybe I should be paying closer attention to how I'm sleeping. What should we pay attention to, and what are some steps that we could take if we find that we're checking off a lot of those boxes?
Yeah, so your body, back to that temperature part, like if your body warms up naturally when you wake up, you're going to release cortisol as part of waking up. And so if you're finding you're having to hug your coffee first thing in the morning or that caffeine hit, you actually should be able to wake up without an alarm clock and be able to function without caffeine. I know that's hard to believe. And if that caffeine is more than just my habit and I enjoy having my drink, but it really becomes a requirement in order to function, that's usually a pretty good sign that things aren't going right with your sleep. You shouldn't wake up in the middle of the night. A normal grown-up won't wake up in the middle of the night. So if you're waking up to go to the restroom in the middle of the night, your body actually releases a hormone during deep sleep that says, please don't get up and go to the bathroom. And so if you're doing that, it means you're not in deep sleep. You're not getting good, consistent sleep. And temperature is a really easy fix for that, but there's other fixes as well. But deep sleep definitely doesn't coincide with getting up and using the restroom in the middle of the night. Another one is that dip in the afternoon. So when your core body temperature is looking for that siesta and after lunch, you're crashing hard and you can't make it through without it, and that's not your normal habit, that is another indicator that you're really needing to catch up on some more sleep. There's obviously the mental fog and all those things that happen to us. As you mentioned, if you get less than 5, Tulio, you're feeling foggy. All of those are pretty normal. Your cognitive, like I forgot that, or my coordination, I'm feeling klutzy. All those kind of normal things are a little further beyond that, where you start to feel like you're off.
Fascinating. All right, so much to learn. This is a topic we can talk for hours on.
Oh, yeah.
Let's learn a little bit about the culture itself at ChiliSleep. You're obviously helping millions of lives, or at least in the process of trying to help millions of lives improve the quality of sleep, which has an impact, as you already mentioned, on the future of our health. Whether we develop Alzheimer's, dementia, or other things that could be prevented by the quality of sleep we get 20, 30 years before those things kick in. So in terms of the business itself, you're a growing company, you got a Series A, so you're in the proving grounds. Now it's all about, prove us that you can get traction in the marketplace. What kind of people are you looking for to join you on this mission? What are the typical sort of cultural fit type people that you look for?
Yeah, so we have a pretty wide range of employees because we obviously we have an app that goes with our products. So we've got software dev, we have mechanical engineers that work on the hardware, all the way to sort of your customer experience and warehouse and marketing folks. And so personality wise, I think we cover almost everything and in between. But we have remote workers as well as here, especially with COVID. That was helpful. But I think, when we look at our culture, we do stock options for our employees. We look at a high sense of ownership. As much as I have 4 boys, I'm not a good babysitter. And so we always talk about just people that are like comfortable in their own skin. They're in their zone of genius and they have a high sense of ownership of what they're working on and how they do it. We do provide product to everyone. So everyone has to be a good sleeper.
I was going to ask that. I was like, so those stock options come with the ChiliSleep?
Yeah, it's part of onboarding. You get your own version of it, and everyone is a product tester as well. So as we work through new product innovations, different people will test out different things, and so yeah, it's almost a requirement. I wouldn't say that there's like a super big mandate in the sense if you're not going to want to participate, we wouldn't hire you, but you have to really love sleep. We talk about sleep a lot.
Tara,
so I can just envision the conversations around your water cooler.
Do you guys have like sleep pods in the office? You have like sleep pods in the office? I mean,
we do. We have multiple beds for testing, and we do. There's a couple guys that are our official sleep testers, and so we have to do live load tests as we're talking about it to match thermal load. Yes, they, in addition to their regular job, get the title of professional sleeper, and so they get to do live load tests occasionally. So we have a couple professional sleepers on staff. We coined that job title specifically for them.
I could just imagine the conversations around the water cooler when the new guy or gal joins the team. So, how was your ChiliSleep? So
Actually, some of our best ones are that we also have a friends and family discount. And so I think some of the moms, especially of some of the software guys, they're a little younger, their moms are like more like the best advocates out there, and have pretty regular conversations with some of the moms about like just how it's changed them. So it is pretty fun. It's a pretty, we consider it a family kind of feel. We do, we use Basecamp methodology. And so we do 4 weeks on and 1 week off. And even during COVID, the ones that wanted to come in, we have a taco truck come and we basically do a sort of a show and tell of what we've all worked on. So it's a pretty close group and we enjoy sort of sharing time as best we can during COVID. It was better before COVID, had more regular parties, but as with everyone else, it's a little bit less fun these days.
Wow, we're up on time, but I have an idea for you guys. Post COVID, you could come up with a campaign. The Improve the Lives of Millions campaign, where you buy a ChiliSleep product and you take a nap in the office in the middle of the afternoon, and you simply just say, "I'm," "So what are you doing? What are you doing?" "I'm participating in this Improve Millions of Lives campaign." Who's going to argue against that, right? You're doing something for a good movement. So it's good to have had you as a guest, Tara. Thanks for being with us.
One more
Carlos,
before we
got
go.
another question, right?
Yeah. It's really quick. It's simple. I just got to ask this, okay? What's with the chili? Why?
Oh, chili is both hot and both chili cold. So it was like just like
okay, I see.
cold
I
chili.
got it.
Yeah, that was the brainchild of in 2007. That was the idea for that.
I just had
To the campaign, we did give away $1 million worth of product to veterans and first responders and healthcare workers. We added for COVID, so we really are sort of really committed to that changing the way people sleep. So there's a bunch of people sleeping on it.
One last question, Tara. What's your chili number? What's your temperature?
Yeah, so it's a little complicated because I'm testing a new product and it's been variable with the new pad, but in general, I'm about a 68.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, that's what I have the house temperature set at night. Thanks for being with us, Tara. It's been a pleasure. Carlos, please stay with us as we go off the air. Carlos, we got one more show tomorrow, right?
one more show tomorrow, Tulio. Tomorrow we'll be speaking with Suba Sethi, the Vice President of Loyalty Projects at Synchrony. And the topic is going to be innovation in e-commerce in a COVID-19 world. So that's what we have right here on Dojo Live tomorrow at 12 p.m. Pacific. Join us today and be safe.
Enjoy yourselves tomorrow. I'll see you back Monday for the recap show. I'm out tomorrow. And thanks for being with us. Stay safe, everyone.
Bye.